Hello and welcome back to the Vintage Super League. I'm Rich Shea. I'm joined here with Brassman.
Yeah, exciting night tonight. I think we're getting ready to see. I want to say it's going to be Kai versus Reed Duke, which should be.
What a
I
great
think
match.
that's. Yeah, it's not only is it two amazing players. This is like as classic vintage as it gets, right? This is the workshop deck.
Absolutely. We get to see two of the all-time greats, Reed Duke playing against Kai. And it's not just that we're seeing them play, we're getting to see them play vintage.
So Storm versus Shops. If this or
So what Brassy is saying is that Storm against Workshops is just one of the defining matchups in vintage. Traditionally, it's favored Workshops, of course, because any sphere prevents Storm from functioning. At the same time, there's been a lot of innovation to make Storm be able to battle against Workshops.
Yeah, I would say if this match was happening a few months ago before Lodestone was restricted, or no chance, Kyle crush him. But I really don't know what's going to happen here. They both absolutely not. It's not a surprise for either one of them. They are prepared for. Reed is prepared. Who prepared better, right?
We seem to have a little bit of technical difficulty here. The brass microphone seems to be struggling a little bit. I didn't eat it, I promise. So,
well, I unplugged and plugged it back in. No clue if it's going to be working or not.
it seems to have helped, Brassy. It seems to have helped. So, Brassman, for those of you who were following along at home, recently purchased the Mana Drain. So he is now the administrator and czar and emperor for life of the Mana Drain, which is
Emperor for now.
Yeah, at least emperor for now. And it's a huge amount of thankless work to administer the Mana Drain. So I think it's worth just mentioning how much Brassy does for the entire community by doing that. It's so often a thankless job that Brassman has taken on because he cares about the community.
I appreciate that. I won't even call it a thankless job because many people have been kind enough to thank me. But if you're not familiar with themanatrain.com, it's basically where you want to go to talk about vintage online. If you haven't checked it out, you should check it out. If you don't have an account, and if you're watching the VSL, chances are you enjoy paying attention to vintage, so it's worth heading over there.
Absolutely. Hopefully, the Mana Drain's bandwidth isn't eating up Brassman's bandwidth so that his microphone doesn't work.
Fair enough. I don't think that's going to be a factor, but we'll see. All right. So, who do you? I know it's very early to tell. What's your? And you don't want to play favorites, but what do you like in this tournament? Who do you think is a lock? What decks do you want to see win? You have the outside perspective, and you don't have to say me. I don't mind.
Okay, so obviously we want to see Brassman get in there, of course. I love this tournament because we are seeing, I think, the most diverse element of the VSL that we've ever seen. We have, I think, 3 Mentor decks, a Dragon deck, a couple Workshop decks, a mono white Hate Bears deck, because why not?
Why not?
Yeah, I think this is just spectacular. So, I really like Brian Kelly's deck because it's sort of this amalgamation, this sort of stitched together, to get into the Garothian terminology here, of a Storm deck like Reed Duke's playing and more of a traditional Mentor deck like you're playing. And Brian Kelly, the vintage world champion, went into his basement and sort of stitched these things together, and now this Frankensteinian monster has arrived on the scene.
Well, I mean, that's what he's known for, right?
Yeah.
So
I mean,
it sounds like our players are ready to go now. So we are going to head over and check out that match. All right. So Kai-san's not super exciting. I mean, that no-rod is really good against Storm, and he knows that it is, but there's not much else there, right? I'm not sure how much I like that.
So I think Kai has to ship this back because as awesome as his hand is, it doesn't really have a turn 2 worm coil engine. It just looks that way on TV.
That's right. And the turn 2 worm coil engine would change things a little, but he does not have that. Reed's hand's interesting. It would be a lot better on the play, having that turn 1 duress against sacks, but it does have a lot of lands that has that going for it. It's not a bad thing to have against a shop stack. It's not a fast hand, but you can't keep like a 1-lander.
Right. I would actually keep it because you can throw out a turn 1 sphere or turn 1. Reed can throw out a turn 1 Mox, even though it's really bad Mox. It's sort of the Unlucky Man's Paradise version of Mox.
Yeah.
Where Kai has a great hand now because it has a land and a sphere, and he can play that Revoker to hit whatever Mox that Reed plays.
So yeah, it looks like Reed captain Kai Mull to 6. He put a Crucible of Worlds on the bottom with his Scry. This hand is a little better than the first one. Now Kai could just not draw any lands from here on out, and it would be not so great. But he's got that turn 1 Thorn, turn 2 Revoker. It's pretty good for a 6-card hand.
Yeah. What do you think about Ensnaring Bridge in Kai's deck?
I understand why he's doing it. There's at least anticipated a lot of Mentor in the field, and he's running the Smokestacks and the Tangle Wires to capitalize on that. So it makes sense. Obviously, in this matchup is where it's at its absolute worst. But I think a lot of the decks don't want to see that, right? I mean, Paul with his White Winnie deck absolutely does not want to see an Ensnaring Bridge.
Yeah, that's true.
And he's running it with that Bizarre Baghdad, an old synergy indeed. Usually seen with Goblin Welders, but
or at least Uba Mask. I find the lack of Uba Mask disturbing.
Yeah, I don't list in front of me. Is he running? How many Bizarres is he running? I know it's more than one.
I think he's running the max. I don't have the list in front of me either, but I think he's running the full boat of Bizarres, the full Baghdad.
I like that. Yeah, I mean, it seems a little aggressive to me. I don't want to second guess Kai, but usually Bizarre is seen with some other cards that give it some synergy. At
least a Basking Rootwaller, right? I mean, think about how good that would be here. Doesn't even have to take extra 1 for the Thorn.
It would be good here. So Reed has the Chromox out, but it's shut off by the Revoker. But Kai is not putting a lot of pressure on him yet.
Right.
He has time to kind of set up his mana.
Reed can play a land, and I guess he has to decide if he'd rather Preordain or Vamp. So the question becomes, is there anything particularly exciting for him to Vamp Tutor for? And it looks like the reasonable candidates are Black Lotus and Hurkyl's Recall. And that's going to be a function of what he expects Kai to do.
Yeah, and those are great cards here. I kind of like playing Preordain. Because it's not like Hurkyl's Recall is going to win him the game here, right? He wants it eventually. He doesn't really want it this turn. Playing Preordain kind of lets you see, hey, is this the kind of game where I need a Lotus, or is this the kind of game where I need Hurkyl's? But we'll see. Regis definitely played this deck a lot.
In a lot of ways, I think Bizarre actually represents a threat for Kai because it means that Kai will eventually sift through his bad cards and find the good cards.
It's true. I mean, Bizarre and Ensnaring Bridge is kind of a combo in this matchup, right? You get to run these conditional cards, which are good against some decks, but not good against others.
Right.
It's fine with Bizarre. And multiples of Bizarre, something about them is that it's not really a problem, right? Because if you draw 2 Bizarres, you can just discard 1 Bizarre to the first Bizarre.
Right. So
Crucible is a combo with Bizarre, no doubt.
So if you're Kai, I mean, it looks like Bridge can go.
Bridge can go for sure.
Do you maybe discard one of your extra lands?
Yeah, I would definitely discard one of the lands. Tough call. Yeah, tough call with the smokestack. Smokestack is a win condition for him, but No Rod and Crucible are both pretty good too.
Hmm. So he's playing Null Rod here, which he's making absolute certain that Chrome Mox doesn't tap for anything.
Yep, it's the conservative play. It means that Reed can't just play 100 Moxes on his turn, and he can't play a land this turn anyway. So it's not like playing the Crucible gives him some big advantage right away.
Right. In some ways, both represent trying to get value later in the game.
Mm-hmm.
And maybe Kai is thinking there's a severe lack of synergy between Smokestack and Null Rod, in that Null Rod nullifies or Null Rodifies the Moxen that Reed Duke might have.
That's absolutely true. He doesn't need to shut them off twice. The Null Rod already does the Smokestack. He would just be sacking them. But Reed doesn't actually have a lot of artifacts here.
So Reed has gotten Chain of Vapor, which is awesome because it's going to let him bounce the Thorn and, provided Kai does nothing else, untap and then cast Time Twister.
Yep, that's true, which is not bad for him. If he draws a ritual on his turn.
Past the turn there. I don't think I like that very much. I would try to Bazaar and find a lock piece, and if you don't find a lock piece, hope to find a wasteland so you can discard it and then play your Crucible, reanimate your wasteland, and then fire your wasteland at Reed. It's not like Reed's playing Gush.
I wonder what... Obviously, Kai doesn't have any responses on Reed's turn. I wonder if he was conserving life, or just wanted to keep the cards in hand to discard the Bazaar later.
I don't know. I think that because he has Crucible in hand, it makes increased sense to use Bazaar.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
So now Reed can Time Twister, and that's his only deterministic line. He can try to use Preordain to find a land, but I don't think anything makes sense other than just taking it off for a big spin.
He knows Kai has a Thorn of Amethyst in his hand, so he knows that Duress has the target. That's a line of play. If he Duresses now, Kai doesn't have that Thorn later. I mean, he doesn't know what the other two cards are, but that wouldn't work out too bad for him.
He doesn't know what the other two cards are, but Kai is going to be able to Bazaar, untap, re-Bazaar, right? So he's going to be able to see 5 more cards.
True, but if Reed were to take the Thorn and Kai were to Bazaar, he'd go to 1 card. He draws another, he Bazaars, he goes to 1 card. So he can get 1 very good card, but he loses 3 cards to do that, or 2 cards to do that. But you maybe only need 1 very good card, so...
Imagine how much Squee, Goblin, and Bob would have changed Kai's entire world this way.
Squee would be fantastic. Bazaar Baghdad plus Squee is it's a powerful combination.
I mean, back a long time ago, that used to be an engine in Dragon. There used to be... So, I know that we don't see a lot of Nick Koss's Dragon deck, and I'm sure many of you folks watching this have never seen or heard of this before. But, there was a time when Dragon was popular enough that there were different variants of it, and Dragon variants included Life from the Loam as a way to leverage your Bazaars for value, Squee, Goblin, and Bob as a way to do that, and... You know,
I got to say, Rich, Squee is not only fantastic with Bazaar of Baghdad, it is also fantastic with Pack Rat.
Oh, wow. Are you talking about Rat Squeeze, Brassy?
I am talking about Rat Squeeze. The deck so good that there's a gentleman's agreement not to play it in the VSL because no one would play the format if they knew. I mean, we already played through the limited season. No one wants to lose to a Pack Rat.
It's true. I remember someone once cast Pack Rat against me in a game of Vintage. I asked him what it was proxying, and he told me it was actually Pack Rat. And then I forced willed it anyway.
Well, you got to counter the Pack Rat. It's just it's critical. All right, so
actual Squeeze, which makes sorceries cost 3 more.
That's true. That is pretty good. So Reed's going for the Preordain, which I don't mind here. If he sees a Sapphire, he can still play the Time Twister, but now it's a little bit better.
No, he can't can't play it because of the
Oh, the no run. Yeah. So he must have put 2 cards in the bottom.
I have to imagine that he shipped 2 on the bottom because
so that was not a great pre-read for him, but
no.
he tried. He really wants a ritual here, right? Like a dark ritual would just turn this whole hand on. But he gets the duress, takes the thorn. Not the worst. Kai has
better.
Yeah. And Kai has options here specifically because he didn't play the Crucible, which is pretty interesting. But he didn't Bazaar in a turn. So he's just keeping the volume in there. Okay.
Oh man, there's the combo of Wormcoil Engine and Ensnaring Bridge.
Yeah, not a great combo, but he just doesn't care about the Ensnaring Bridge here.
I think he keeps the Wormcoil Engine and the Crucible here, right?
Yeah, I mean that's what I would keep. Assuming that he plays the Crucible immediately and then plays the Factory from the yard. But he didn't play Crucible last turn. Still not totally sure why that reason could still be valid here. But I expect he keeps Crucible, Wormcoil, plays the Crucible, plays the Factory.
The best thing about Wormcoil is that it lets him get more mana. Pretty soon, Kai's not going to be able to visit the City of the Dead. There's no glory to be gained there, but there is some mana to be gained there. So he's going to be able to
gain life off it. Yeah, and also, I mean, Kai's at 12. He would go to 8 if he played the Crucible. That means Reed doesn't need as much Storm, right? He only needs 5 Storm right now. If Kai takes 4, he'll only need 3 Storm. Not far away from like an easy Dark Petition kill.
It's true. I mean, both these players have had to make a lot of decisions in these matchups, but I think that's why this is a good classic matchup.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. Yeah, from Kai's perspective, I'm wondering if Reed's hand had a Tendrils and a Dark Ritual in it, you got to be terrified, right? Like he's just a few cards away from just a quick Tendrils, and then Kai just can't afford to tap those Ancient Tombs. I have the benefit of information. Kai can't see that hand, so he's got to play around a lot of stuff here.
Right. All right, so it looks like Kai discards playing around that Tendrils, as you mentioned.
Mm-hmm. So I think he just wants to keep his life total as high as possible. Reed knows Kai's hand now, so he knows the duress has a target. He doesn't.
No, Reed duress. Well,
yeah, I mean he could Twister here. But
duress. I mean, Kai never wanted to cast this Crucible anyway, so Reed could just help Kai out and make sure that doesn't happen.
It just him having one less card in hand means that he can't discard Crucible to Bazaar later.
Right.
Next turn, Kai's going to draw 1 card. He can't use Bazaar to filter it. Reed could Time Twister here, but Time Twister is a lot worse with a no run out. Even with no Spheres out, there's a lot of things he could draw that wouldn't help.
Now, Reed is perfectly capable of winning the game off Time Twister. He can just play his land, which he hasn't used yet, and then Ritual.
Yep. Absolutely.
And so that's an awful hand for Reed.
Yeah, that's not what you want to see off a Time Twister. And Kai's.
Oh wow,
Kai's hand's not so great either. He can play the Wormcoil, right?
Yeah, he can play Wormcoil Engine. And best of all, Kai even gets to keep his Crucible of Worlds, so that was a pure draw 6 for Kai.
That's true. He does get to keep it. Yeah, that doesn't look so good. I mean, obviously Kai's hand would be better if it also had some more lock pieces, but he doesn't need them because Reed does not have.
He has Chalice. Chalice are one entirely reasonable. It's entirely reasonable.
Interestingly, I think Reed wins if he draws Tendrils off the top. Right? He just plays Mana for Lotus, Soul Ring, Ritual Tendrils.
But I think Kai will put that plan on a 1-turn clock with his good friend Wormcoil Engine.
I totally agree.
So I think Reed Duke's best strategy here is to draw a Word of Command and force Kai to play a bridge.
would be a decent strategy. Oh no! See, Kai gets around the Word of Command play because he can activate Bazaar in response.
Oh, okay. Yeah, that makes sense.
Can't. Well, but Kai is making the terrible mistake of Bazaaring main phase, which opens him up to Word of Command.
Didn't think about this at all, did he?
You know, we're joking about Word of Command, but Reed is running main deck. He's running Praetor's Grasp. It is totally possible for him to tutor for Ensnaring Bridge and cast it.
I don't remember if you guys remember when Mirage Block came out, but Grinning Totem was the big hot card of the set. This was back when Jester's Cap and Jester's Mask were the key marquee cards of Ice Age. Not Necropotence, no. Jester's Cap. And Grinning Totem is sort of like a 6-mana Praetor's Grasp.
It's true.
So with the power of Praetor's Grasp, Reed Duke actually could have reached into Kai's deck and played that Wormcoil engine. So it's actually... Oh, he could actually reach into Kai's deck and play Ensnaring Bridge, couldn't he?
Yeah, he'd take the Ensnaring Bridge, the Wormcoil.
Wow, yeah.
I don't think that's how this game is going to go down, but it's exciting me that that's a possibility.
Yes. It's not impossible that happened.
Yeah, so I mean, obviously, we have the benefit of hindsight here, but I don't really like that time twister from Reed. If he had just Duressed instead, Kai would have no play this turn. If Reed has one Dark Ritual before he plays the time twister, it makes a big difference. Now, it wouldn't have made a big difference with the hand he drew, but I play Storm a little too conservatively, so it's totally possible that was his best window. I mean, so Kai plays it at 1.
Yeah, every time I play Storm, I'm reminded that I'm a control player and not a combo wizard. So I think it well could be correct for Reed Duke to have gone for Time Twister there.
Mm-hmm. All right, so he's willing to pay the life for the Wormcoil, which makes sense to me. I think that's what he's going for now.
He didn't need to pay the life there. He could have played the Lotus and gotten one more
Lotus.
Then
he could also play the Lotus and played Wormcoil and attack with Factory. Which might have been... Oh, it's Magic Online. Control Z is an option.
Sometimes Control Z works. Sometimes... Yeah, there we go. That works.
All right. So I'm guessing he goes for Lotus and Worm. He can go Lotus Wormcoil or Lotus Wormcoil attack and take 2. Doesn't really change his clock too much either way.
3 to 9.
Actually, it was 7. It changes.
It does speed up the clock, so it seems correct. Reed Duke dies next turn.
No, he dies next turn anyway, either way, because next turn you can attack for 6 with Wormcoil, 2 with Revoker, 2 with Factories. That's 10 next turn.
It's only 10, so Reed's
but he hasn't attacked with the Revoker yet.
Oh, okay.
So it's the same other way. He doesn't need to take the damage.
All right. So Kai doesn't need to attack. He didn't play around Tendrils for no Storm.
Yeah, which is understandable. I mean, that's not a very likely. No, yeah. So Reed knows how unlikely, like how few outs he has. He's just fetching for value here, just to try to thin his deck out a little bit. Mokshet, not going to do it.
Not what he needs. And so Kai and his Wormcoil engine get there against Reed's hand of mana sources and an unusable counter. All right. Well, I mean, that's... Yeah, on the one hand, that's sort of the traditional resolution of the Workshop versus Storm match, especially Game 1. But on the other hand, it was actually a lot closer than we've often seen this.
Yeah, I mean, that time twister could have gone either way. So obviously Reed is boarding out mental missteps, which are not so good. Duress is a fine card to board out against Workshops. He doesn't want to bring in those Pyroblasts. Looks like he has, I saw a Rebuild, some extra basics. Can't tell how many hurdles he has now, but he's got some. And Kai has those Ley Lines of Sanctity, I think, which are can be tough to get around.
Reed has Praetor's Grasp. That gets stopped by it too, doesn't it? Target opponent. Yeah, look at that.
It does actually. Yeah.
And Kai is boarding out Wormcoil Engine. No. Kai is boarding out Ensnaring Bridge to play around Praetor's Grasp.
Yeah, it doesn't look like sometimes Reed has played the Tinker or Colossus plan before. That'd be pretty good here. Doesn't look like he has that today. But empty the Warrant.
He is empty.
Yeah, that's a nice way to ignore a Ley Line of Sanctity.
So one thing that strikes me about Kai's configuration is that it seems like it has a lot of cards that are pretty soft against token makers. Empty the Warrens, mostly Monastery Mentor. Smokestack, to a lesser degree, Tangle Wire. these are cards that once the token makers start to get online, they just quickly lose their value.
Yeah, I think he's going to rely on playing a sphere effect early enough so that there's not going to be 6 or 8 tokens in play. I mean, his factory is in a Wormcoil engine. Well, taking out the Wormcoil engine, which is fine. I don't think your game plan is to bring in Wormcoil engines against Empty the Warrens. I think your game plan is stop them from playing Empty the Warrens.
Right.
We will see.
That Kai mulliganed into a Thorn, and I think that's what you have to do in this matchup. You can't let Reed just take a turn after you unless you've put out a lock piece.
For sure. And I think that's true in many matchups. So Kai's going down to 2 smokestacks, which makes sense. He knows that Reed has the Empty the Warrens. Normally, against Storm, you don't really know whether they're going to be on Empty the Warrens, on Tinker Colossus, or just on like 6 rebuild effects. But Kai's got that info, and he knows that Smokestack is not necessarily. It's also a little slow.
It is a little slow. But without Smokestack or Wormcoil Engine, can Kai actually win? I guess he has Mishra's Factory.
I mean, he can do the regular like Shop's Plan A, right? If he plays some spheres. Yeah, so look at Kai's hand.
Kai has to ship that back.
Yeah, it's just not fast enough. Every card in his hand is amazing, but he needs a Mox or a Workshop to get it offline. Reed, on the other hand, has a landless hand. This is tough.
I like that. Who needs land when you have all these goblin friends?
Yeah, I mean, he can ignore the rituals and just play turn 1 Lotus Soul Ring Ataxing Probe Empty the Warrens for 8 goblins.
Goblins.
That's not bad. And if he draws a land off the Ataxing Probe, that's a lot more goblins.
Right.
And I think we saw Kai board out all of his cards that could. I don't remember if he has a Tabernacle or not. I don't think he does.
I don't remember seeing that. I don't think there's any card in Kai's deck that actually handles this. And now Reed has a hand of Casting Shadows. Okay, his regular hand is back.
Yeah, so I'm looking at Kai's list right now. He has no Tabernacle between main and sideboard. He has those Stern Bridges, but I think he boarded them out.
Yeah, I don't think you can actually. I don't think you can actually beat 8 tokens.
Yeah, this is what Empty does. I wouldn't be surprised right now if Reed was looking at Kai's list.
Right. So I know that I've played Mindbreak Trap in a lot of my Shop's lists.
Oh, and I love that tech, by the way. I haven't yet to run into it, and I haven't had a chance to play it myself, but Mindbreak Trap out of Shops is a beating. Absolutely.
It's really good. The other card that theoretically Kai could have here is Leyline of Singularity, which would hilariously stop Reed's deck from functioning here.
No. Oh, Leyline of Singularity. Oh, yeah, that's the cards are legendary.
Yes.
Right? Which is only good against Empty the Warrens. And people have run it in the past.
Right.
But
it used to stop Sliver's Kill when Flash was a deck.
Yeah. Kai is not running that card, however. Not today. But in a regular tournament situation, it is something you'd have to worry about. So it looks like Kai kept his hand, which is not going to be enough for him. I'm not sure if there's something he could have mulliganed into, but that's not going to do it. So if Reed is incredibly greedy, no, he can't. He's got to just go for the Empty here. There's a non-zero chance. There's a decent chance that Ancestral would draw him into the mana to play a giant Empty, but he's got to just play the Empty and hope that's enough.
Did Reed's hand change? What happened to his Gataxian Probe?
He already cast the probe. So Kai kept his 7.
Okay.
Replayed the probe, drew Ancestral.
I don't think.
It's so tempting to play Ancestral in this situation, but you just can't do it. You got to have those goblins.
Yeah.
Yeah. And Reed knows. And Kai's deck in particular.
Right.
Now, if Kai had a turn 1 Lodestone, it wouldn't be terrible against 6 goblins. 8 goblins still beats it.
Well, he takes 7,
and
then 6, and then 5, and then 4, and he'd be dead.
Yeah. Yeah, this is not... Kai's not drawing the things he would need to draw.
So I
I think, yeah, the
There's
only
some-
thing I could have would be like a lodestone and then a metamorph into a lodestone and then a metamorph into that. I think that's the only kind of thing that could save him here, and it's already too late.
I honestly think that Kai just can't keep hands that don't do anything like that on the first turn.
Mm-hmm. And I understand his reservation because 2 Thorns and a Lodestone and 2 Wastelands is pretty amazing, but you got to be able to cast them before those 8 Goblins come into play.
Right. The whole point of Reed's deck is celerity. Land that doesn't tap for mana go is not how you do that.
And I think the No Rod here, while it's sort of a defensive play, I think Kai's only outs are Artifact Man at this point. Like, the only way he could win the game is if he drew, like, Lotuses, and now it's
I
just
don't think he actually has any outs in his entire deck at this point.
Yeah. Oh, well. However, we are going to game 3, where Kai will be on the play, which is kind of a big deal.
Kind of a big deal. I see what you did there. I see. Very good. Very good.
I didn't make that pun on purpose, but I will take it.